The sun hasn't even risen yet. It's 3 a.m. on a cold November morning, and there's already a line of people sitting outside a Starbucks with camping chairs and blankets. They're not waiting for some groundbreaking new iPhone or concert tickets to see their favorite artist. They're waiting for a cup, a bear-shaped glass cup from Starbucks that's about to cause one of the messiest product launches in the coffee chain's history. Welcome to the Starbucks Bear Cup drama, where we're diving into the tea spill that has TikTok absolutely losing it, baristas stressed beyond belief, and people questioning if we've completely lost the plot as a society. This is a wild food video slash vlog situation that you need to hear about, because the Starbucks holiday menu launch turned into pure chaos, and we need to talk about every single detail. Before we get into this absolute mess, do me a favor and smash that subscribe button. I promise I won't make you camp outside at 3 a.m. to do it. Just one little click and you're in. Cool? Cool. Let's get into this madness. So here's how this whole thing started. November 6th, 2024. Starbucks decides to launch their holiday menu, which is already one of the busiest, most chaotic times of the year for anyone working behind that green apron. The peppermint mochas are back, the cranberry drinks are flowing, and baristas are already preparing for the annual onslaught of complicated custom orders. But Starbucks wasn't content with just the usual holiday drink chaos. They decided to throw gasoline on an already burning fire by announcing a limited edition holiday merchandise drop alongside the menu. The collection had a bunch of stuff. There was a Hello Kitty collaboration featuring plushies, mugs, and tumblers that had the kawaii crowd losing their minds. But none of that mattered once people laid eyes on the star of the show, a clear glass cup shaped like a little bear. It had this adorable teddy bear design with little ears on the lid, and it was exactly the kind of thing that makes people on TikTok go completely feral. The second Starbucks posted about it, the internet exploded. Videos started flooding every feed. People were stitching, duetting, and making their own content about how desperately they needed this cup in their lives. The comments were filled with bear emojis and people tagging their friends saying they had to get matching ones.
Starbucks knew exactly what they were doing with their marketing, too. They were actively commenting on people's TikToks, hyping everyone up, and posting to Instagram with captions like, "Who's getting a barista cup on November 6th? Let me know." Seems innocent enough, right? Just a company engaging with excited customers. But here's the thing that nobody realized at the time. When Starbucks asked, "Who's getting a barista cup?" they didn't mean it like, "Are you planning to buy one?" They meant it like, "Who's actually going to be lucky enough to get their hands on one of these?" Because despite all that heavy promotion and marketing, despite getting millions of views and comments, despite building up all this hype, they didn't make nearly enough to meet the demand they created. And that's where everything started to fall apart.
The warning started coming from an unexpected source. Current Starbucks employees, people who actually worked at the stores, started commenting on these viral videos, trying to warn everyone about what was coming. They were leaving comments saying things like, "Just so you know, my store only got 2 of these cups," or "If you're not there right when we open, you're not getting one." Some baristas were even more specific, saying their location received literally one single bear cup. One cup for an entire store in a major city. One cup after Starbucks had just spent days promoting this thing to millions of people online. That's when the preparation videos started appearing. People weren't just planning to show up when the store opened anymore. They were planning military-level operations to secure this cup. One woman posted a video explaining that she was setting her alarm for 2:45 a.m. because she had already called multiple locations and found out they only had 2 cups each. She was planning to hit several stores, knowing that if she wasn't first in line, she'd have zero chance. Another person filmed themselves driving around to different Starbucks locations in the middle of the night, peeking through windows to see if they could spot the bear cups on the shelves, trying to figure out which store to camp at.
But it gets even more intense. Some people weren't just waking up early, they were camping out from the night before. There were videos of people arriving at Starbucks right as it was closing the previous evening, watching the employees shut down for the night, and then pulling out camping chairs to sit outside in the cold for 7 or 8 hours straight. One video showed a couple sitting in their car at almost 10 p.m., watching through the window as employees set up the holiday merchandise display inside. They announced they were going to wait right there all night through the cold November darkness just to make sure they were first in line when the doors opened the next morning.
Think about that for a second. People were willingly choosing to spend an entire night in the freezing cold, getting zero sleep, sitting on hard pavement outside a coffee shop, all for a glass cup. A cup that holds liquid. A cup that probably costs Starbucks less than $5 to produce. But none of that mattered because TikTok had decided this was the must-have item of the season, and people were fully committed to getting their hands on one no matter what it took. The comments under these camping videos were split. Some people were supportive, saying things like, "Get that cup, girl," and "I respect the dedication." But others were already starting to question the sanity of it all. People were asking, is it really worth losing a whole night of sleep? And what has society come to when we're camping for a cup? But those questions got drowned out by the excitement and the hype. The train had already left the station, and it was headed straight toward disaster. Morning finally arrived. Stores were set to open at 5:30 a.m., but the lines had been forming since 3 a.m. or earlier. People were bundled up in winter coats, clutching their phones, watching the clock tick closer to opening time. Many of them could see through the store windows, and they could spot the bear cups sitting on the merchandise shelf, just waiting to be purchased. They were so close. They'd done everything right. They'd sacrificed their sleep, endured the cold, gotten there hours early. Victory was within reach. But that's when things took a turn that nobody expected.
Here's where the real controversy begins, and this is the part that has people absolutely furious. As customers stood outside waiting for the store to open, they watched something that made their blood boil. Employees started arriving for their shifts, unlocking the doors, and heading inside to prepare for opening. And then, while customers continued to wait outside in the cold, they watched through the windows as those employees walked over to the merchandise shelf, picked up the bear cups, and took them to the back of the store. At first, some people thought maybe they were just moving them behind the counter to organize them better before the rush. That would make sense, right? Get everything ready for the chaos about to ensue.
But that's not what was happening. What customers didn't know while they were standing outside is that those employees were buying the cups for themselves before the store even opened. Before a single customer could walk through the door, the employees were purchasing the entire stock of bear cups that their store had received, which in most cases was only 1 or 2 units anyway. One guy actually filmed this happening from outside. His video shows him standing in line since 1 a.m., watching through the window as the morning shift employees arrive, walk to the shelf, grab the bear cups, and disappear into the back. He noted in his caption that multiple other locations had told him this wasn't allowed, that employees weren't supposed to purchase limited merchandise before customers had a chance, but he was watching it happen right in front of his eyes.
Subscribe real quick if you're enjoying this absolute chaos, because it somehow gets even worse from here. Just hit that button. Your sleep schedule will thank you for not having to camp outside Starbucks at 3 a.m. to stay updated on drama like this. All right, let's continue. So 5:30 a.m. hits. The doors finally unlock. Customers who have been waiting for hours in the freezing cold rush inside ready to finally claim their prize. They head straight to the register, credit cards already out, ready to pay whatever it costs. And that's when they hear the words that make their hearts sink. Sorry, we're already sold out of the bear cups. Sold out? How? The store literally just opened. These customers were first in line. Some of them were the only people in line. How could it possibly be sold out already?
The truth started coming out immediately. The employees had bought them before opening, while paying customers waited outside. And understandably, people absolutely lost it. Arguments broke out in stores across the country.
Customers were demanding to know how this was fair, how this was allowed, why they were made to wait in the cold for hours when employees had already purchased everything before the store even opened to the public. One person on Reddit described showing up at 4 a.m., being first in line, watching employees remove the bears from the shelf at 4:15, and then being told at 4:30 when the store opened that they were sold out because employees had already bought them all.
The debate exploded online immediately. The comment sections turned into war zones with people taking very strong positions on both sides. On one side, you had the furious customers who felt completely cheated. They argued that when a company heavily promotes a product, encourages people to come out and buy it, and creates all this hype, employees shouldn't be allowed to buy out the entire stock before the store opens, especially when the stock was only 1 or 2 items anyway. These people had woken up at insane hours, driven across town, waited in the cold, and done everything they were supposed to do. They felt like the rules had been changed on them mid-game.
But the other side was just as passionate. Current and former Starbucks employees started speaking up about what it's like to work there, especially during the holiday season. They talked about the emotional and physical exhaustion of being a barista, dealing with the holiday rush, the complicated orders, the angry customers, the long shifts, the low pay. They argue that they're paying customers too, that they deserve to buy things just like anyone else, and that they shouldn't have to wait until after their shift when everything is definitely going to be sold out anyway. Some pointed out that at least when employees buy these items, they're actually keeping them, not reselling them for profit like so many other people do.
One comment that got a lot of attention said, "We deserve first dibs. This job is so emotionally and physically draining. We're paying the same as you would. You got up early knowing it isn't guaranteed." Another employee chimed in saying, "When I was a barista, I got the only 50th anniversary cup we had. We had first dibs. I believe the employees deserve that." The comments went back and forth, with both sides making points that honestly weren't entirely wrong. Yes, Starbucks employees have a tough job and should be able to buy merchandise. But also, yes, it seems unfair to heavily promote something to millions of people and then let employees buy out the microscopic stock before the store even opens.
But here's the thing that got lost in all the debate about employee rights versus customer fairness. The real villain in this story isn't the employees or the customers. It's Starbucks corporate. They're the ones who created this entire mess. They're the ones who decided to promote this cup to millions of people while only sending 1 or 2 to each store. They're the ones who built up massive hype without being transparent about how limited the stock actually was. They're the ones who put their employees in the position of either buying the cup before their shift started or never getting one at all. They're the ones who made customers feel like they had to camp overnight for a reasonable chance at getting one.
Think about the math here for a second. Starbucks has over 16,000 locations in the United States alone. Let's say they sent an average of 2 bare cups to each location. That's about 32,000 cups total. Now think about how many people saw the marketing for this cup. Their Instagram posts got hundreds of thousands of interactions. TikTok videos about it racked up millions of views. Even if only a tiny fraction of people who saw the cup wanted to buy it, that's still way more than 32,000 people. Starbucks knew exactly what they were doing, and they did it anyway.
And here's where it gets even messier. The people who did manage to get their hands on the bear cups immediately became targets for everyone else's frustration. Because a lot of them weren't just buying one for themselves. They were buying as many as the store would let them, which in some cases was multiple. And then within hours, those cups started appearing on Facebook Marketplace, eBay, Mercari, and every other reselling platform you can think of. Cups that retailed for around $17 were being listed for $80, $100, even $200. Some listings were asking for $300 or more, and people were actually paying these prices because they felt like they'd never get another chance.
The reseller situation added another layer of anger to the whole mess. Customers who had waited hours and gone home empty-handed were now watching people profit off the artificial scarcity that Starbucks had created. It felt like adding insult to injury. Not only did you not get the cup after doing everything right, but now if you want it, you have to pay some random person on the internet 10 times what it originally cost. Some people argued that this is just capitalism, and that's how limited items work. Others felt like it was exploitative and gross, taking advantage of FOMO and people's emotional attachment to cute merchandise.
Starbucks' social media pages turned into absolute disaster zones. Every post they made was flooded with angry comments from people demanding to know why they promoted something they didn't have enough of, asking for explanations, sharing their stories of waiting for hours only to be told everything was sold out. The company stayed quiet for a few days while the controversy continued to build. Videos kept coming out, more people kept sharing their stories, the debate about employees buying stock kept raging, and through it all, Starbucks said nothing.
But probably the most interesting part of this whole situation is what it says about us as a society and the way TikTok has completely changed consumer behavior. Because let's be real for a second. This is a cup. It's a glass cup shaped like a bear. It's cute, sure, but it's not functional in any practical sense. Multiple people who actually got the cup started posting de-influencing content afterwards, pointing out that it doesn't fit in car cup holders, it's difficult to clean because of all the nooks and crannies in the bear design, and it's honestly kind of impractical for daily use. The lid doesn't seal properly for travel, the shape makes it awkward to hold. It's basically just a decoration that you can technically drink out of if you really want to.
And yet, people were willing to camp overnight in the cold for it. People were willing to pay hundreds of dollars to resellers for it. People were willing to drive across multiple cities checking different stores for it. Why? Because TikTok told them they needed it. Because everyone else wanted it. Because it was limited and exclusive, and if you didn't get it right now, you'd miss out forever. This wasn't about the cup itself. It was about the fear of missing out, the desire to be part of the moment, the need to have what everyone else was talking about.
We've seen this exact pattern play out over and over again in the past few years. Remember the pink Stanley Cup that caused actual fights in Target? People were sprinting through stores, shoving each other, getting into physical altercations over a water bottle. The Jellycat stuffed animal drops that have people lining up around the block at Indigo and other stores, with the rare ones selling out in minutes. The painted beauty blenders that everyone suddenly needed despite working the exact same way as regular ones. The Aloe Yoga drops, the Lululemon restocks, the list goes on and on.
TikTok has created this ecosystem where products can go from unknown to absolute must-have overnight. The algorithm amplifies the hype, creating the snowball effect where more and more people see the content, which makes more people want the thing, which makes more people create content about it, which shows it to even more people. It's a cycle that feeds itself, and brands have figured out exactly how to exploit it. They don't even need to do traditional advertising anymore. Just make something limited, get it in front of the right TikTok creators, and watch as millions of dollars in free marketing happens organically.
And Starbucks is particularly good at this game. They've been doing it for years with their seasonal drinks and limited merchandise. Remember the color-changing cups? The studded tumblers? Every holiday season brings a new wave of gotta-have-it items that sell out immediately and appear on resale sites for ridiculous markups. They've perfected the formula of creating artificial scarcity to drive demand. Make something cute, make very few of them, promote it heavily, and watch as people lose their minds trying to get one.
The phrase scarcity marketing gets thrown around a lot, but this is textbook execution of it. By keeping the stock extremely limited, Starbucks creates urgency. If there were unlimited bear cups available, people could buy them whenever. There'd be no rush, no pressure, no FOMO. But when there's only a handful per store, suddenly everyone needs to act immediately or risk missing out forever. It doesn't matter if you actually need the cup or if it's practical or if you'll even use it. The scarcity itself creates the value.
And here's the genius part from a business perspective. Even if people don't get the cup, they still came to Starbucks. They're already there at 5:30 a.m. The store is open, they're disappointed about the cup, But maybe they'll get a coffee and a breakfast sandwich to make the trip feel worthwhile. Maybe they'll buy a different tumbler since they're already there. Starbucks wins either way. Plus, all the social media content about the cup is free advertising. Every video, every comment, every news article talking about the controversy just spreads their name further. There's no such thing as bad publicity when you're a massive corporation.
Finally, after days of mounting pressure and increasingly angry customers, Starbucks released a statement. It was about as corporate and non-committal as you'd expect. They said, "The excitement for our merchandise exceeded even our biggest expectations. And despite shipping more barista cups to coffee houses than almost any other merchandise item this holiday season, the barista cup and some other items sold out fast." They added that they understand many customers were excited about the barista cup and apologize for the disappointment this may have caused.
Let's break down what's wrong with this statement, because it's almost impressive how it manages to say a lot of words without actually saying anything meaningful. First, the excitement exceeded our expectations line. Really? Your expectations were exceeded? You have teams of marketing professionals. You have analytics on social media engagement. You could see the videos getting millions of views. You could see the comments pouring in. You were actively commenting on people's videos, hyping them up. And you're saying you were surprised by the demand? That's either incompetence or dishonesty, and neither one is a good look.
Second, they claim they shipped more barista cups than almost any other merchandise item this holiday season. Okay, but if you're only shipping 1 or 2 per store, that bar is pretty low. Saying you shipped more of these than other items doesn't mean you shipped enough of them. It just means your other merchandise was even more limited, which isn't exactly reassuring. And third, the apology is hollow. We apologize for the disappointment this may have caused. May have caused? People camped overnight in the cold and went home empty-handed. There's no may have about it. It definitely caused disappointment, and your passive language trying to minimize that isn't fooling anyone. The statement ended by mentioning that fans can expect more exciting merchandise throughout the holiday season, though they didn't specify what exactly that would be, which just feels like more of the same. More limited items, more artificial scarcity, more opportunities for chaos. They learn nothing from this experience, except that the formula works. People will camp out, people will fight over products, people will pay resellers ridiculous amounts, and Starbucks' name will be everywhere online. Mission accomplished.
In the aftermath of the Bear Cup chaos, something interesting started happening. People who actually got the cup started posting videos trying to de-influence others, trying to make people who missed out feel better about not getting it. They'd show how the cup doesn't fit in standard cup holders, making it useless for car travel. They'd demonstrate how difficult it is to clean, with liquid getting trapped in the bear's face details. They'd point out that the lid doesn't create a tight seal, so you can't throw it in a bag without risking leaks. Basically, they were trying to show that the cup was more hassle than it was worth.
Other people started finding alternatives. Dollar stores had similar bear-shaped containers, usually marketed as honey jars, that people bought and repurposed. Amazon had nearly identical clear bear cups without the Starbucks logo, and honestly, for a lot of people, that was actually a plus. Why pay hundreds to a reseller or camp overnight when you could get basically the same thing for $12 with free shipping? The TikTok showing these dupes got millions of views, with comments full of people thanking the creators for the alternatives. But even with all the de-influencing and dupe finding, the controversy highlighted something important about modern consumer culture. We're living in an era where social media has more influence over what we buy than any traditional advertisement ever could. A 15-second TikTok of someone showing off a cute cup has more power to drive purchasing decisions than a $1 million ad campaign. And companies know this. They're building their entire marketing strategies around it. The influencer and TikToker economy has created this weird situation where we're constantly being sold things, but it doesn't feel like advertising because it's coming from, quote, regular people we follow. When someone you watch regularly says they're obsessed with something, it feels like a genuine recommendation,
even though they might be sponsored or might benefit from the hype. Even when they're not sponsored, the algorithm rewards engagement, so there's an incentive to jump on trending products and create content about them. It's advertising that doesn't look like advertising, and it's incredibly effective.
And brands have learned to weaponize FOMO in ways that weren't possible before social media. You used to miss out on something, and that was it. You moved on with your life. But now you miss out on something, and then you see hundreds of videos of other people enjoying the thing you couldn't get. You see them unboxing it, using it, showing it off. The algorithm keeps showing you what you're missing. It's like rubbing salt in the wound, and it makes you even more determined to get the next limited thing so you don't have to feel that way again.
The question a lot of people started asking during the Bear Cup drama was simple but important. Why didn't Starbucks just make more? If the demand was clearly there, if millions of people wanted this cup, why not produce enough to meet that demand? One person commented, "I don't know why they just don't mass produce them. They would obviously sell." And someone replied with information that made everything make even more sense. They do. They've had them in Japan for years. They are just choosing to be problematic.
That's right. This isn't even a new design. These Bear Cups have existed in Asian markets for years. Starbucks knows how to make them at scale. They've done it before. They could absolutely produce enough to meet U.S. demand if they wanted to, but they don't want to. Because if everyone could get one easily, they wouldn't be special anymore. They wouldn't trend on TikTok. People wouldn't camp overnight for them. The artificial scarcity is the entire point. It's not a bug, it's a feature.
Someone else commented, they make more money by using scarcity marketing and acting like everything is limited edition so people feel FOMO. This is exactly what Road and Park do. And another person simply replied, bingo, because that's exactly what's happening. This is a calculated strategy that's been proven to work across industries. Make something cute, make it limited, watch the chaos unfold, and profit from all the attention. At the end of the day, this whole situation is bigger than just a cup. It's about how consumerism has evolved in the TikTok era, how brands manipulate our emotions in fear of missing out, and how we've gotten to a point where people will camp overnight in the cold for products they don't actually need and might not even use. It's about how social media has created these feeding frenzies around products, turning shopping into a competitive sport where getting the limited item feels like winning.
The Starbucks Bear Cup drama is just one example in a long line of similar situations, and it definitely won't be the last. As long as TikTok exists and brands understand how to use it, we'll keep seeing these cycles of hype, scarcity, chaos, and controversy. The products will change. Next time it might be a different cup, a stuffed animal, a makeup product, or something we can't even predict yet. But the pattern will remain the same. What's particularly wild about all of this is that we're watching it happen. We're aware of the manipulation, and we still participate anyway. People in the comments were calling out the consumerism, saying things like, "This is so weird and we've completely lost the plot as a society," while simultaneously being part of the group creating content about the cup, driving engagement, and feeding into the exact cycle they're criticizing. It's this strange paradox where we're self-aware enough to recognize what's happening, but not willing to step off the carousel.
The Bear Cup situation also highlighted some uncomfortable truths about economic inequality and priorities. While people were camping overnight for a decorative cup, other comments pointed out that there are people who can't afford food, that there are actual problems in the world, that maybe our priorities have gotten seriously out of whack. And those comments aren't wrong. There is something deeply strange about living in a world where people will lose sleep and money over a glass bear while serious issues go unaddressed.
But maybe that's part of why these products are so appealing. Life is stressful, the world has a lot of problems, and sometimes having a cute cup feels like a small piece of joy you can control. You can't fix the big things, but you can maybe wake up early and get the Bear Cup. It's a tangible goal with a clear outcome, and when so much feels uncertain and overwhelming, that kind of simple objective can be comforting, even if objectively it's not that important.
The debate about whether employees should get first dibs on merchandise also revealed interesting class tensions.
On one hand, service workers absolutely deserve to enjoy the products from places they work, especially given how difficult and underpaid those jobs often are. On the other hand, when the stock is so limited that employees buying one unit means customers who waited hours go home empty-handed, it does create genuine unfairness. The real solution would be Starbucks actually producing adequate stock so both employees and customers could get what they wanted. But that would defeat the scarcity marketing purpose.
In the weeks after the initial chaos, the Bear Cup continued to be a topic of conversation online. People shared their experiences, debated the ethics of the situation, posted their dupes, and generally processed what had happened. Starbucks moved on to promoting other holiday merchandise, probably making mental notes about how to create similar chaos next time. The cups that made it into people's hands became prized possessions for some and forgotten decorations for others, and the resale market eventually stabilized, with prices dropping as the initial FOMO wore off and people realized they could get similar cups elsewhere. If you've made it this far into this absolute saga, you're probably the kind of person who appreciates good content and deep dives into weird cultural moments. So do me a solid and subscribe if you haven't already. I promise to keep bringing you the most unhinged consumer culture stories, complete with all the drama, all the controversy, and zero requirement for you to camp outside at 3 a.m. Just click that button and you're good to go. Looking at the bigger picture, the Starbucks Bear Cup controversy is a perfect case study in modern marketing, consumer psychology, and the power of social media to drive behavior. It shows how companies can create demand out of thin air through artificial scarcity, how TikTok has become the most powerful advertising platform in existence, and how our relationship with products has become increasingly tied to social status and FOMO rather than actual need or utility.
It also raises questions about sustainability, both environmental and emotional. How many of these Bear Cups will end up in landfills in a few years when the next trendy item comes along? How many people damaged their sleep schedules, stressed themselves out, and spent money they couldn't afford chasing something that ultimately didn't improve their lives? What's the cost of constantly chasing the next limited thing, the next must-have item, the next trending product? But perhaps the most important lesson from all of this is about being a more conscious consumer. It's about recognizing when we're being manipulated, understanding the tactics brands use to drive our behavior, and making intentional choices about what we actually want versus what we're told we should want. It's about asking ourselves if we genuinely love something or if we just love the idea of having what everyone else wants. It's about stepping back from the hype and evaluating whether something will actually add value to our lives or if it's just another piece of clutter we'll forget about in a month. The Starbucks Bear Cup will eventually be forgotten, replaced by the next viral product, the next launch chaos, the next consumer frenzy. But the patterns and systems that created this situation will remain. The scarcity marketing will continue. The TikTok hype cycles will keep spinning. The FOMO will persist. And unless we collectively become more aware and more resistant to these tactics, we'll keep seeing people camp overnight for products that don't matter. We'll keep seeing fights break out over limited merchandise, and we'll keep wondering how we got here. The real question isn't whether Starbucks did the right thing with their Bear Cup launch. It's pretty clear they prioritized marketing chaos over customer satisfaction. The real question is what we're going to do about it as consumers. Are we going to keep participating in these manufactured scarcity events, feeding the machine and rewarding companies for creating artificial problems? Or are we going to recognize the game being played and choose not to play along?
For what it's worth, if you really wanted a Bear Cup and didn't get one, the Amazon dupes are apparently nearly identical and way cheaper. Plus, you don't have to give money to a company that deliberately created chaos and stress for both customers and employees. Just saying. Sometimes the best way to win the game is to refuse to play it in the first place. Before we wrap this up, I want to hear from you. Did you try to get the Starbucks Bear Cup? Did you camp out? Or did you decide it wasn't worth the hassle? Do you think employees should get first dibs on limited merchandise?
Or should customers who waited in line get priority? What do you think about this whole consumer culture situation and the way TikTok drives these frenzies? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read them all, and I'm genuinely curious about your perspectives on this whole mess. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into one of the most ridiculous product launches in recent memory, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss future videos. I cover all the consumer culture chaos, social media drama, and weird cultural moments that make you question everything. Hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next one. Until then, maybe get some sleep. Unlike the Bear Cup campers, you've earned it.